Hello SourceFedNerd Anime Club, it's me Jenny aka ClassyLibrarian, and this week's anime was Log Horizon, and I've watched the first 22 episodes of this. I plan on watching the next 3 when they come out, and I look forward to it. Given that this is the third anime that we've watched for Anime Club, which has been within the subgenre of trapped in an RPG, I just really enjoyed this. I was a little bit apprehensive because there's only so much you can do with that subgenre, but I'm really impressed with this series. It's a very, very distinct universe, and I was able to separate it very clearly in my mind from the other two. Part of that is because it's slightly more mature in several ways, one of which is the fact that all of the characters are slightly older, or the vast majority of the characters are slightly older. They're all adults or university or college age, in equivalent to the other two, which are secondary school age people. So I really enjoy that it's slightly older demographic. There's a lot more strategy involved in this and political negotiation, particularly because the main character is a strategist. So there's a lot more political intrigue, which I really enjoyed, which I wasn't really expecting from a story that could be so simplistic in terms of, you know, set in RPG. And there's a lot of really nice strategy stuff, which almost reminds me of some strategy games in a very minor way because it is mostly RPG, but there is some strategy aspects thrown in which I really enjoyed spotting. So I really like that whole feel. In terms of the way that this universe is built up, I'm very impressed. There's some really nice design features, particularly in the fact that it's set in a sort of RPG version of Japan, particularly with the building designs where they're almost The Last of Us sort of decrepit buildings covered in leaves, but then with a huge fantasy aspect thrown in the middle of it. And of course it's set in a Japan-like era. There's a lot of Shinto-like features which are thrown into the creature design, which I really enjoyed. It feels very specifically cultural in comparison to a lot of the other ones which felt just general medieval RPG. There was a lot less Western influences in terms of mythology, which I really enjoyed seeing. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this story develops. I also like the fact that within the overall arc of this story, it's not... The other two were very much the real world versus the RPG world and trying to get out of the RPG world specifically. While this one is a very complete universe within itself, there's very little information given about the characters outside of the RPG. You know perhaps what they did, but you don't know very much about their life. You don't see their character designs as their human characters. You only see their avatars. You only see them playing these characters, and there is a lot of genuine role-playing in this, particularly with some of the characters. I'm going to try and pronounce I'm not going to pronounce her name. The ninja girl. She's adorable. Who does a lot of my lord, my master sort of thing. And the cat guy, who he not only says nyan at the end of most of his sentences, which I noticed, which made me very proud of my not knowing any Japanese, but able to recognise that he's actually using a variant in order to say meow at the end of each sentence. And he says that as part of his role-playing, but also as because the game has become real, he has to say nyan at the end of every sentence, which I really loved spotting. It made me feel incredibly proud of myself, which is enormously dorky. So I really like the role-playing aspect to that. And the fact that this universe, in my opinion, the way to describe this series is instead of a trapped in the RPG, it's a NPC story from the perspective of PCs, because this universe is complete and it's compact. It makes logical sense, and the reason why NPCs are so limited as to their dialogue options is not because they're simplistic or because they're simple running programs. It's because they're trapped by etiquette and fear of just not knowing who these adventurers are. And the fact that they're so trapped by etiquette is why they've had such limited dialogue options before this apocalypse. And I really like that concept, and the fact that there's a lot of political intrigue and there's a lot of conversations between what counts as an adventurer and what counts as a human, because this universe is all-encompassing. There's so little outside input that it's complete in itself, and it's not distracting by the fact that you can go in and out of it. And I do like the fact that there is a genuine sense of danger. With the other ones, it was you know, life and death, and because death got taken out of it, it has to mature in a way towards how do you genuinely build a society in this world. And I just found that a really interesting and mature concept to discuss, the fact that this isn't about survival, this is about building a world and creating a livelihood for yourself, and it's just such an interesting new concept for this subgenre so far, so I'm really enjoying it. The character designs maybe aren't as pretty as Sword Art Online, but there is a lot of very pretty effects, and the fight sequences are pretty good. I do like the fact that it's very strategically in control. There's a lot of references to how the system works. And at first I was slightly irritated by how specific and how in-depth they went with the exposition in terms of the game's mechanics, where they would have a voiceover and a montage to explain each class and each skill set. But it does really help when you then look at it as an overall way of building a strategy for each battle and how each player can have an equal and important input. And then on top of that, the action's pretty good. So overall, I'm really enjoying this anime. I'm surprised by how complex and mature it is. I'm really interested to see how the story develops, particularly with the political side of things, and although I'm not that invested in finding out how these characters got trapped in this world, I like that it's still an unanswered question that, although it's not necessarily essential to the plot, I would like to see how that story could develop. I like most of the characters. I'm slightly irritated by the love triangle that happens, I think, in episode 22. I think that's probably my least favourite episode because it just turns into a socially awkward love triangle. But the rest of it I absolutely loved, and I'm looking forward to the rest. I hope this review was useful for you. Feel free to comment down below and say whatever I said was absolutely stupid or incorrect or wonderful, whatever you want to say. I probably won't be doing a review for next week's anime unless it is one that I already know and love. I'm just going to take a few days off because I've got a few days off from work and I'm going to do lots of things that I've been putting off for a while. So I won't see you next week unless it's an exceptional anime, and that's about it. See you in 2 weeks' time. Feel free to comment down below. I try and reply to as many comments as I possibly can.